Hi everybody, today I want to talk to you a little bit about lenses. I'm getting some questions as in, what lenses do I buy? What do I start with? What do I do in regards to glass for my camera? From a financial standpoint, if you have a lot of money, PL mount glass from Cook or Zeiss is going to be your best bet in terms of look. But most of us are dealing with a finite amount of money. And if that's the case, the Canon Mount for your Epic or Scarlett is unbeatable. Eventually there will be a Nikon mount coming on, and we'll deal with that when it does. But today, for now, we're dealing with Canon lenses. So what do you want to buy? What do you want to get? Are there differences between the glass? Let's start with that question first. Are there differences? Yes. The Canon L series line is without a doubt the best you're going to get in terms of glass for your camera. After that, prime lenses are going to be a better way to go than with zoom lenses. I'm not saying you don't use zooms. There are times to use them. But in most cases, if you're looking for that beautiful filmic look, primes are going to be what you want. Also, a prime lens usually is more sensitive. It can open up. It's a faster lens than a zoom. All right? So I want to give you my recommendations on a good package for lenses. All right? I'll use my trusty iPad here. The first one is a specialty lens, believe it or not. It's not something that everybody uses, but I am such a big fan of this type of lens that I have to recommend it. It's an L-series lens. It's the EF 8 to 15 millimeter lens, so that means it's also a zoom. However, this particular lens is extremely wide, going more to almost a fisheye effect at 8 millimeters. And I find that it gets me out of so many problems. I actually started with a lens like this on my AF100. It was a 7 to 14 millimeter lens. And I thought, who the hell would ever use something this wide? And I am telling you, I found myself going to that lens time and time again. We did a commercial where I had to shoot in the back of an ambulance. Now, this wasn't an Epic shoot. This was a shoot with the AF100, but I was using a 7 to 14 millimeter lens, and I cannot tell you how valuable that wide lens was in getting back there and getting me great shots of that ambulance without having to have tiny little areas or back the camera way up. It's a fantastic lens for small areas or when you really need to see a wide vista. If you're really into tight spaces or you find yourself doing small things, this is the lens you got to have. Now, in regards to the fisheye effect, that bowing effect that you see, I don't really notice it unless there's a lot of horizontal or vertical lines in the shot. You have to take it on a case-by-case basis, but I think you'll find that the fisheye is not as distracting as you would think it is. Okay, so next we're going to go up to one of what I like to call the standard lenses. There are 3 standards in primes that just about everybody uses, and some DPs will tell you they can shoot an entire feature with a 24, a 50, and an 85. Well, we're going to talk about the 24 millimeter lens now. Let me pull it up here. The 24 is a 1.4. It's an f1.4 lens. Very, very fast. That means you're going to have a lot of control of your depth of field. Beautiful lens. Beautiful lens. So it's something to really look at. Now, the trick with that lens, unfortunately, is price. You're going to find it's a little over $1,600. There's a way to kind of have an alternative to that. You can go up a step to a 35 millimeter lens. They have a 35 millimeter. It's also a 1.4, and it's not in as much demand as the 24, and so it's about $300 less, coming in at around $1,350 in that area. Now, I'm not saying that that is something you should do, forgetting the 24 and going with the 35 instead, but, I mean, if money's really tight, and you have to do one or the other, that might be a way to get you into a lens like that without blowing a whole bunch of money or saving you $300 in the process, okay? Next up is going to be the 50 millimeter lens. Now, when we go into the 50 millimeter, things get a little bit faster. The 1.2 is the speed on your 50 millimeter prime. Beautiful lens, great soft depth of field. It's a good way to go. This lens runs, let's see, $1,500, once again, right in the middle range for this type of lens. It's prime, just like the 24 and the 35 are all prime, so they're going to have really nice focus, really, really sharp lenses. L-series lenses are a cut above. The motors are better, they're a little faster, they're sealed The glass has more coatings. There's a whole bunch of reasons why those lenses cost the money they do. It's not just to make more cash. All right, after the 50 is a very special lens. It's your 85 millimeter lens. Believe it or not, this is one that I even have. Here's the 85. When you hold it, the first thing you're struck by is, damn, this thing's heavy. It weighs a good 3 or 4 pounds. This is a portrait lens, okay? This is the lens that when you got to make them look absolutely gorgeous, that's the lens you're going to pull out. It's also a 1.2, very, very fast. I'm always in shock when I get that lens on my camera. Every time I get that lens on my camera and I look through it, it's like, wow, that is just beautiful stuff. So the 85 millimeter prime is probably one of the most in-demand lenses that Canon has. Unfortunately, Canon knows this, and so that lens also costs a little north of $2,000. Ouch. So after that, I'm going to jump you to a zoom, okay? We're getting into long lenses now, so the zoom I'm going to recommend to you is the EF 70 to 200 millimeter. It's not very fast. It's a 2.8. Now, that doesn't mean that's not slow. It's just normal. 2.8 is slow. And the good news is it holds that 2.8 all through. So from 70 to 200, it's a 2.8. That's very impressive. So it's a bigger lens, okay? You're going to need that long lens every once in a while, whether it be sporting events or things like that. And as you know, if you crop down to like 3K or 2K, that 200 could turn into a 400. So it's a good lens to have, and it finishes out your set and gives you a nice, good range of everything, all right? Now, total cost for the entire set is going to be a little over $10,000, probably about $10,500 in that area to get yourself all of those lenses. Now, as bad as that sounds on the outset, you got to remember that you can do this a piece at a time. You can do this roughly $1,500 at a time, except for the 85 millimeter and the 70 to 200. Both of those are about $2,000 each. So those are owies, but the good news is you can go ahead and work yourself into this. You need to make sure that you do. Having a good, strong package of glass with your camera is going to make all the difference. And these lenses, they hold their resale value and they don't go bad. They're top of the line. So you're in fine shape owning a set of these. And 5 years from now, you can probably sell them for very close to what you got them for. One more little cost I want to alert you to before you get into this. So first thing you're going to do is you got to make sure you purchase clear filters to put on the front of your lens right away. Second you get it, before you start oohing and ahhing, before you even put it on the camera, get a clear filter on this to protect it from scratches or people bumping up against it. I guarantee you they're going to. And then finally, once you have all the clear filters in place, make sure you go out and buy yourself a number of ND filters and polarizers, because remember, Epic and Scarlett don't have any type of light cutters built into the camera. And sometimes when using these lenses, you don't want to go through the pain of a matte box. So screw-on filters are always a fantastic option, okay? Expect to spend about $300 to $400 in screw-on filters if you want to go crazy. So roughly $11,000 pretty much puts you into every L-series lens you need, as well as a couple of zooms and a fisheye and some filters. And that is not a bad deal at all, especially since you can just do it a piece at a time. So if you're renting, now you know the glass to look for. For renters, I would say to you, make sure you get yourself a 25, a 50, and an 85. Those for sure. And if you think you're going to need a longer lens, go ahead and get yourself a zoom or a 200 millimeter. You should be pretty good to go. Now, there's one other lens I didn't talk to you about. That would be a 100 millimeter macro lens for extreme close-up photography. This is not an L-series lens, or at least what I use isn't, so I don't think it would be that expensive, but I don't have prices for it. Nevertheless, this is a pretty good overview. I hope it helps you out. See you next time.